Hi everyone, welcome to Great Books, Big Ideas. I'm Jim. Time for another Friday Reads, June 21st, 2024. I finished a couple books this week and wanted to share those with you. And then a few new pickups from the Goodwill store and from the Little Free Library. So let's start with the books I've finished this week. The big fish would be this guy, Ulysses by James Joyce in the Gobbler edition. I finished that on Bloomsday, June 16th, 2024, which was my goal, and I really enjoyed the read. I won't talk much about it on this video because I devoted a whole other video to that, so go back on my videos and you can find that, some thoughts on it. The other book I finished is much shorter, and this is also on an Irish theme, and that is The Wild Atlantic Way, Ireland's Amazing Coastal Trail. This is published by Gill Books, and it's a nice picture book with it's a little guidebook to the Atlantic coast of Ireland. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Very useful. Well, someday maybe I'll get back to Ireland, and I will definitely want to visit the Atlantic coast after reading that book. But this was a book that I got from a Little Free Library, and one reason I wanted to make this video was so I could return this to the Little Free Library now that I'm finished with it. So that's that. I'm going to keep Ulysses in the Gobbler edition, and then let me turn to some Goodwill finds. And I found 3 books at Goodwill. We got out, what was it, last weekend, I guess, over to Exton, and we were shopping, and we ended up at the Goodwill store in Marchwood Shopping Center, and I hadn't been there in quite a while. And one thing I noticed at the book department of this Goodwill was they had a lot of good stuff, like lots of literature. They had, like stuff you don't normally find in a Goodwill store. There wasn't, it wasn't all, like Rod McEwen poetry collections, or, the collected poetry of Leonard Nimoy, or I'm Okay, You're Okay, or cookbooks, or things like that. I mean, they had stuff like that for sure, but they had lots of like interesting stuff. I had to chuckle too because I noticed that there was 2 post-structuralist books that were very famous and notorious: Madness and Civilization by Michel Foucault and Writing Indifference by Jacques Derrida. 2 books that I did read. The Derrida I read very frustratingly in grad school, and the Foucault I read once I got out of grad school. I just had to have a chuckle at the fact that these titans of post-structuralism have now fallen by the wayside, and now they're in the Goodwill store, one foot in the grave, so to speak. But it was interesting to see them in there. And I did find several things. There was a few things I put back because they were charging like $4.99 per book for all the prices. I thought that was a little steep. I guess inflation has affected Goodwill just like everywhere else. But the most exciting one maybe was this one, Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. So I've been intrigued by Dune. We saw they redid or reissued the films lately, and we watched the first one, and I liked it quite a bit. And I thought, I really ought to get around to reading Dune. And I guess there's 6 of these Dune novels, and maybe some others. It's hard for me to keep track. But this is, I think, the second one in the set of the Dune Chronicles, Dune Messiah, book 2 in the magnificent Dune Chronicles. And I took a peek at it, just dipped into it. It looks like it's going to be fun. I might just read them out of sequence because it seems to me like Dune, because Dune's really popular these days, it's in demand. I'm not seeing it so much in the used bookshops, but I'll keep an eye out for it. This one I kind of manifested because when I went to the store, I thought, it really would be nice to find one of the Dune novels, and there it was waiting for me. The other two were interesting finds too. This one, Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. Brand new condition Penguin Classic, not marked up at all, clearly not read. And I thought for $4.99 that was worth it. It's got a Netflix tie-in badge up here. I didn't realize they made a Netflix series out of it. But this one's been on my TBR list for years. I've read a Shirley Jackson short story collection, which includes her most famous story, The Lottery. But that whole collection had like lots of interesting stuff on it. But this one maybe is her second most famous work, and it looks like a haunted house story. I did start it, and it looks interesting. So I think I'm going to put this on the front burner and get to it really soon. And then this one was another interesting find. This is a hardcover by Sarah Bakewell at the Existentialist Café, Freedom, Being, and Apricot Cocktails. So I remember when this came out a few years ago and it got reviewed. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. 2016 is the copyright date, and here's the back. But anyway, it's an irresistible introduction to an electrifying 20th century intellectual movement and the revolutionary thinkers who shaped it. And I've always been into existentialism, like ever since high school. I read some Sartre, Kierkegaard, a lot of literature that was taught back then was taught with an existentialist slant to it. So, you read authors like Kafka and Beckett and on. And I've read lots of these philosophers. The ones that are most focused on here are Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, Albert Camus, Martin Heidegger, Karl Jaspers, Edmund Husserl, and Maurice Merleau-Ponty. But there are others in here too. I think maybe Hannah Arendt is in here. So let me just show that to you a little bit. Lots of names popping up. Arendt is in here. There's a whole lot of people. So this seems to be like a intellectual history of that time period in the mid-20th century when existentialism was a hot commodity, and it seems to be written in a breezy style. The only thing I know about Sarah Bakewell is that she wrote a book about Montaigne that was, I think, fairly popular. And I remember when I taught Montaigne in a Western World Lit survey course. When was it? Maybe last fall or the fall before that. I found like a YouTube clip with Sarah Bakewell, and she gave a really nice introduction to Montaigne and what makes him great and so forth. So I showed that to the class. But she appears to be a fine writer, and I'm going to put this is on the back burner, but it's going to come to the front burner pretty soon because I'm just interested in it. And it probably won't take too long to read. Also, I've been reading, sort of dipping back into The Rebels by John Jakes. I still got quite a ways to go on that, but that's a fun read. And then this was my latest little library find, little free library. I was really excited to find this just because of the condition of the book, even though I don't know much about the author. And that is Lisa Tuttle, My Death, introduction by Amy Gentry. And the blurb here is, the narrator of Lisa Tuttle's uncanny novella is a recent widow, a writer adrift. Not only has she lost her husband, but her muse seems to have deserted her altogether. Her agent summons her to Edinburgh to discuss her next book. What will she tell him? At once the answer comes to her. She will write the biography of Helen Ralston, best known, if at all, as the subject of W.E. Logan's much reproduced painting Circe, and the inspiration for his classic children's book, Harmony in Cloudland. But Ralston was a novelist and artist in her own right, though her writing is no longer in print, and her most radical painting, My Death, seemed too unsettling, malevolent even to be shown in public. Over the weeks that follow, Ralston proves an astonishingly cooperative subject, even as her biographer uncovers eerie resonances between the older woman's history and her own. Whose life is she writing, really? So that's an intriguing premise. It's a very short book. I might just even call this a novella. It's barely 100 pages, 105 pages. So I'm already reading this. I'm maybe about 15, 20 pages into it, liking it so far. The premise reminds me a little bit of Bag of Bones by Stephen King, which I'm also getting back into. Like this theme about a writer whose spouse has passed away. They have writer's block, so I guess there's a pattern there. But it looks like this one's going off in a different direction from the Stephen King. And I do like these NYRB classics. I'm going to be spending a little bit more time with these soon because I have some other titles I want to show you, but I just love their cover design here. Cover design here by Katie Humans. Anyway, that's my quick update, what I've been reading this week, what I've finished. Some other books are, in the mix. One other one I did finish was in the Great Books of the Western World set. I finished Plutarch's Life of Julius Caesar, which was a really great read. Just unbelievable. Enjoyed that one a lot. His biographies of Alexander and Caesar were up there. And that's about it for the update. So what have you been reading this week? Have you read this Lisa Tuttle? Have you read any of the other books I've showed? Happy to hear your comments about that and your feedback. And I will try to stay cool. And I hope if you are in the heat wave lands here in the Northeast, you are staying cool. I'm going to stop this video now and turn the air conditioner back on. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.